Chapter 1. You hear the word murder and everything changes. You were there when she said it, not in the room, not next to her teacup or her tightly laced boots, but close enough to feel the chill run through the stone walls of St. Mary Mead. It was murder, Miss Marple had said, soft, almost apologetic, like she was commenting on the weather. But that word, murder, it changed the village, changed you, because up until that moment, Rose Emmott was just a girl who drowned. Another cautionary tale for the Sunday sermon. Another reminder for the mothers to keep their daughters decent. Another name whispered behind garden hedges, always with a shake of the head. Now she was something else. Now she was proof. You don't know why it's you that's pulled in. Maybe it's because you live 3 doors down from the Emmetts and people expect you to check in. Maybe it's because Miss Marple smiled at you once too long in the post office queue and you nodded back. And that was all the permission she needed. Or maybe it's because you can't let it go. You keep seeing her, rose-soaked, pale, lips blue, pulled from the river like a broken porcelain doll. Someone didn't want any more. You didn't know her well, but you remember her laugh. Loud, reckless, not fit for a village that prefers silence. They say she was with Harry Carter, that she was carrying his child. They also say she had her eye on someone else, but no one says who, not out loud. Miss Marple finds you outside the bakery. She doesn't need to ask if you've heard. She only asks one thing. You'll help me, won't you? It's not a question. You nod. And from that moment, you're in. You start where any decent gossip would start with Mrs. Emmett. The mother's grief is dry. No tears. Just a tightening jaw and a refusal to meet your eyes when you mention the baby. She wasn't no angel, Mrs. Emmett says, but she didn't deserve that. She doesn't say what that is. You don't ask. She points you toward old Mrs. Dane Calthrop, claims she saw Rose the night before she died. You walk through town. The street's too quiet, too neat. It's like the village has already folded in on itself, like it's trying to hide its own pulse. Mrs. Dane Calthrop opens the door with a Bible in one hand and a cigarette in the other. She passed by just before the storm. She says, before you even speak, you blink, Rose. She nods, blows smoke past her words, shoes muddy, eyes wide, like she'd seen a ghost or become one. She pauses, wasn't headed home either. Then where? She taps ash into the wind. Toward the woods. Your stomach knots. Fee Fabanka. The woods lead to 3 places: the river, the railway, and the Bartlett house. You already know which one you're afraid of. You pass by the Bartlett cottage just before dusk. Curtains drawn, lights on. Mrs. Bartlett is slicing something behind the kitchen window. You can't tell if it's bread or bone. Her husband is out, they say, visiting his brother. But you know he came back last night, quietly, before the papers even knew Rose had died. People say he's harmless. Victimized. People also said Rose drowned. You dream about her that night. Not her face, just her hands reaching, clawing at river water that gives no grip. The scream is silent. The betrayal is not. You wake up with the taste of guilt in your mouth, but it's not your guilt. It's someone else's. And now you have to find out whose. Chapter 2. She was pregnant and someone wanted her silenced. You never asked to carry this weight. You're not a policeman. You're not a detective. You're not even a priest who might claim moral ground. You're just someone who saw something, heard something too late. But now, you know what Rose Emmott was carrying when she walked through town with mud on her boots and fear in her eyes. A life, and someone killed her to erase it. Miss Marple hands you the news like it's an invitation to a funeral. Dr. Haydock examined her. She says, lips tight, voice lower than usual. Confirmed it. You don't ask if the police know. You already know the answer. They don't want to know. Not really. Not when it means digging into the kind of truths that make a village rot from the inside out. You walk by the vicarage and nod politely to the reverend. He nods back. Cheerful, almost smug. There's something about the way he sips his tea that makes your teeth grind. He was close to Rose once. Helped her get work in the church flower guild. Said she had potential. That word again. As if that's all a girl ever is in this village. Potential or trouble. You find yourself wandering near the stream. Where they found her, there's still a muddy ring in the reeds. Something white catches your eye. You step closer. A scrap of fabric. You tug it free, a torn corner of cotton. Cheap. Patterned with tiny blue flowers. The kind a girl might wear under her dress. The kind no one was meant to see. You pocket it because someone already saw it and tried to make sure no one ever would again. That night, you ask Miss Marple something you've been holding back. Why me? She stirs her tea twice before answering. Because you notice things. And because you haven't decided what kind of person you want to be yet. You frown, and that matters. She looks at you over the rim of her cup. It always does. Especially when you're deciding whether to tell the truth or keep someone else's. The next morning, you try to speak to Harry Carter. He's sitting on the edge of the green, smoking like the war's still going. You sit beside him. He doesn't look at you. You loved her, you ask. His jaw tenses. She didn't love me? You wait. She loved what I wasn't. You glance at him. Which was, he shrugs. Afraid, he doesn't say another word. But he leaves something behind when he walks off a folded paper tucked under a bench slat. You wait till he's gone to grab it. It's a letter from Rose, written in a girl's tight, careful script. I won't go through with it. Not unless you come with me. You said it didn't matter. But it does. It does. There's no name, just the smear of ink where a tear had fallen. Or maybe a thumbprint pressed too hard in guilt. You show it to Miss Marple. She reads it twice, then folds it. Smooth and slow. This wasn't meant for Harry. She says, how do you know? Because he never learned how to read cursive. You blink at Hawking. Then who? Her eyes darken. Whoever taught her that secrets only stay buried if the one who tells them doesn't live long enough to repeat them. You leave her house with the weight of the letter and the edge of something sharper. Someone else had a reason, and now you have to find out who Rose trusted and who used that trust to silence her forever. Chapter 3. The river didn't just take her, it hid her. The stream looks different now. You've walked past it 100 times. Never noticed how black the water turns near dusk. Never saw how the reeds of even when there's no wind. You think about Rose, how she ended up face down in this place. Lungs full of mud and secrets. Everyone says the river took her, but now you know better. The river didn't take Rose. It covered for someone. Miss Marple sends you to the police station not to report anything, but to listen. That's what she says. You'll learn more from the pauses than from what's spoken. You stand near the bulletin board, pretending to read notices. Behind the half-closed office door, you hear Inspector Drew. We're closing the case. Carter didn't do it. and there's no evidence pointing elsewhere. Another voice, young, impatient. But what about the fabric they found? A long pause. We don't pursue scraps. You step outside, heart hammering. They did find fabric, like the piece you still have folded in your coat pocket. And they're not going to pursue it because they don't want the noise. A girl dead, pregnant, possibly involved with someone married. That kind of mess spreads. Mary Mead. They prefer their tragedies like their tea lukewarm and politely ignored. You walk the riverbank again, this time upstream. The mud's thick. It pulls at your shoes like it wants you to stop. But you don't. You find the bend where the reeds part wider than before. There's something stuck in the roots. At first you think it's driftwood. Then you see the glint of glass. You reach in and pull. A bottle, still corked, inside. A crumpled piece of paper. You sit on the wet earth. Open it. The writing is shaky. Ahishoka. Unfinished. If they don't let me leave, I'll do it myself. I swear, It ends there. Ripped. The ink smudged, but not washed away. Who was Rose writing to? Or was it a message no one was ever supposed to find? You bring it to Miss Marple. She studies the note. It's desperation, she says, but not surrender. She was trying to run, you say. She nods, but someone made sure she never got the chance. That night, you dream again. But this time, it's not Rose in the water. It's you, tangled in weeds, sinking while a dozen windows look on without opening. No one screams. No one dives in. Because here, in this village, people don't save you. They watch you drown and then tell each other you must have slipped. You wake up and realize something you hadn't before. There's more than one way to kill a girl. You can push her into a river, or you can whisper in the right ears, turn enough backs, and let her drown on her own. But Rose fought back. And someone couldn't let that stand. The bottle, the torn note, the fabric scrap, pieces of a girl no one wants to remember. But you do. You remember. And now, the river isn't the only thing hiding something. So is everyone else. And you're about to start knocking on doors. Chapter 4. Everyone in the village saw something and lied. You start with the grocer's wife. She claims she never saw Rose the night she died. But you remember her telling someone that she thought she heard a girl crying near the bridge. You repeat that to her. She stirs the sugar bin. You know how the wind is, she says. It can sound like anything if you're lonely enough. You nod, but you make a note because only liars answer questions that gently. You move on to the school teacher, Miss Bland. She was always fond of Rose, taught her to write when the others said she wouldn't learn. You find her in her garden, pruning dead blossoms with the precision of a surgeon. Rose was bright. She says, without looking up, too bright. Did she talk to you before she died? She hesitates just long enough. No, but the pause was louder than the denial. The pattern becomes clear quickly. Everyone in this village has a version of the story. But no one is telling the same one. Some say Rose was headed for the train station. Some say she was crying in the church. One claims she was planning to run to London. Another says she never left her house after supper. She couldn't have done all of them, but she could have frightened someone enough to make them wish she hadn't done anything at all. At twilight, you knock on Mr. Sim's door, the man who runs the local watch repair shop. He doesn't open right away. When he does, he looks tired, old in the way that comes from holding too many secrets in a small room for too long. You ask if he saw Rose that night. Mr. Christie, I saw a shadow. He says, whose? He smiles. The kind that doesn't want to be named. You think he's being poetic, until you look past his shoulder and see it, a pair of women's gloves, still damp, on the radiator. Small, worn, and patterned in blue. Miss Marple listens without blinking. She gave them to someone, you say, or someone took them after. She sips her tea. What's more likely? You look down at the notebook on your lap. Someone didn't want to leave fingerprints. She nods. Just once. The problem isn't just that people are lying. It's that they've agreed on a lie. Somewhere quietly. Together. Not coordinated. Not spoken. But instinctual. Like a flock of birds turning mid-flight without knowing who led the move. Hasmio. They're protecting someone. Not because they believe that person is innocent, but because guilt is less dangerous than scandal. You walk home under a sky bruised with early storm. It's quiet, too quiet for a town that just lost a child. And then you see it scratched into the paint of the postbox near the river path. A single word, run! You don't know if it was written by Rose or by someone who should have, but it's too late for her. Now, you're the one standing still while everyone else keeps moving. And you're starting to think, if you keep asking questions, you'll be next. Chapter 5. You follow the wrong man and almost die for it. You didn't plan to follow him. You told yourself you were just taking the long route home, that your boots turned toward the woods out of habit, not intention, that the figure ahead, broad-shouldered, limping slightly, was just another villager out too late. But then he turned left, not right, toward the old pumping station. No one goes there after dark, no one without a reason, and so you follow. The grass is slick, the moon barely shows her face, half hidden behind clouds, like she, too, doesn't want to watch what happens next. You keep your distance. The man moves slowly, deliberately. He stops behind the crumbling brick wall, and then he bends down, lingers, leaves something behind. You wait until he vanishes into the tree line before stepping forward. The brick wall is damp with moss and time. You peer behind it, a bundle, wrapped in cloth. You unfold it with shaking fingers. Inside, a silver locket, a pair of torn baby shoes, and a folded photograph of Rose Emmott. Smiling, you don't hear him behind you. Not until it's too late. The first thing you feel is the blow to your ribs. Not sharp, but enough to drop you. You hit the ground, hard. Air knocked out. Someone kicks the bundle from your hands. Boots crunch mud. You try to roll. To see his face. But he grabs your collar and hisses, "Leave it." You don't know what you're doing. You claw at his wrist. He lets go, not because you win, because he chooses to. So, keep digging, he says, and you'll end up just like her. He fades into the dark, like a threat swallowed by fog. Isaso. Miss Marple bandages your hand the next morning. You didn't see his face, she asks. You shake your head. But you remember his smell? Pipe smoke and varnish, like something soaked into old wood. You tell her about the bundle. She presses her lips into a thin line. He was hiding memories. Then why not burn them? She looks up sharply. Because guilt doesn't want to be erased. It wants to be hidden. Close. So it can be touched. Like a bruise. You spend the next day in the library, digging through town records. Not about Rose, but about the building he chose. The pumping station, abandoned 15 years ago, after a flood, washed through the lower foundations. Kukushats. No one went back, except him. You find one name in the maintenance logs who worked that site during the flood. Graham Bartlett, father of Peter Bartlett, husband of Margaret Bartlett. Dead 5 years now. But what if the family kept the key? What if Peter still visits? What if Margaret knew? You go back that night. You shouldn't, but you do. The door creaks open easily now. Inside, The air smells like mildew and old secrets. You flick your torch on. Dust stirs. You see footprints. Fresh. Your own. And someone else's. You shine the light forward and see something scratched into the rusted steel wall. Letters. Shaky. It was never his. Underneath it, I told her. She said she'd tell. And then, a name carved through it all. Rose. You step back. Atatek. The metal groans. Kaum. Something shifts overhead. A plank falls, just missing you. You don't wait for another warning. You run. Out the door. Into the rain. Past the village that doesn't care who's next. You run until your lungs burn and your legs buckle. Because someone just tried to kill you. Not with poison or bullets, but with truth too heavy to carry. And now you know one thing for certain. Whoever Rose's baby belonged to, it wasn't Harry Carter. Chapter 6. She knows the truth, but won't tell you why. Miss Marple has always been two things to this village. A watcher and a weaver. She pulls threads until they make sense. Turns lies into patterns. But tonight, when you sit across from her with bruises on your ribs and truth smeared across your hands like oil, she doesn't weave. She withholds. You tell her everything. The bundle, the voice behind you, the carvings in the pumping station wall. She listens without interruption, then pours you tea. That's how you know you're not going to like what she says next. You should stop now. You stare. Excuse me. She doesn't look up. You've done enough. I almost got killed. Yes. Her hands tremble slightly as she adds milk to her cup. Which means you're close. And that makes you dangerous. You want to ask to whom, but you already know the answer. Everyone. You're dangerous to everyone who's built a life on things left unsaid. Including her. You know who the father is. Don't you? You ask. She doesn't flinch. But she doesn't nod either. You always did. You say, no. She whispers. Not always. But I suspected. You lean in, then tell me. She meets your eyes, and for the first time since this began, she looks tired. If I tell you, someone else will die, the words hit harder than the boot in your ribs. She's not protecting a person. She's protecting balance, the fragile, ugly order of a village that punishes loudly and sins quietly. Rose was going to speak. You say, that's why she died. Miss Marple nods. And if you speak now, what happens next? Justice? She actually laughs, a short, bitter sound. No, dear, just more death. And no one left to call it by its proper name. You leave without finishing your tea. The rain follows you home. Every light in the village feels like an eye. You wonder how many of them know. How many are pretending they don't? How many helped bury her with silence before the river ever touched her? You sit by your window for hours. The letter from Rose in one hand, the bottle she never got to throw in the other, and Miss Marple's voice in your head. Someone else will die. You want to believe she's wrong, but the longer you wait, the more you start to think someone already has. Chapter 7. The second body. Turns up, and it was no accident either. It's always the quiet ones. You remember thinking that when you saw Len Fisher walking the green every evening, eyes down, hands behind his back, like he was pretending not to hear the gossip buzz around him like flies. Len didn't speak much. Couldn't really. A throat injury from the war? He just listened, and what he heard, he kept until someone decided he'd heard too much. You wake to a knock at the door. not polite. Urgent. Rain clings to the coat of Constable Reed, eyes hard beneath his hat brim. You knew him. He says without preamble. Len. He nods. We found him down by the mill sluice. Neck snapped. Accident. The way he looks at you answers everything. Miss Marple mentioned you'd been poking around. You say nothing? Best leave this one to us. You close the door, then lock it, because when the police say leave it, they don't mean for justice. So, they mean for peace. The village kind, the dangerous kind. You go to the sluice anyway. You stand where Len fell. The drop isn't far. Not enough to snap a neck by itself, unless someone helped him down. You stare at the water, swollen from rain. Another man pulled from it. Another story about missteps and poor balance already spreading like tea through linen. But Len didn't misstep. Len knew that path blindfolded, so someone made sure he didn't walk away this time. Back home, you dig into your notes. You remember seeing Len near the post box, the one with run scratched into the side, and suddenly your breath catches. Because Len couldn't speak, but he could write. You rifle through everything. Flyers, old clippings, your notebook. Then you find it, a scrap of envelope tucked between pages. You flip it. On the back, 3 words, scratched in pencil. He's not done. It's not signed. But the handwriting clumsy, uneven, as if written by someone with shaking fingers. You've seen it once before. In a maintenance log, Graham Bartlett, which means someone kept his notes, someone Len might have found, and paid for. You take the envelope to Miss Marple. She holds it like something alive. Len was watching Peter. You say, she doesn't deny it. Then why didn't you warn him? She looks up slowly. Because I didn't think he'd get involved. He tried to help. She sighs. And now he's dead. That night, you do something reckless. You walk straight to the Bartlett's home. Knock once, twice. No one answers. You turn to leave. Then the door creaks open behind you. It's Margaret Bartlett, eyes sunken, hands wringing a dishcloth like it's someone's throat. You should stop. She says, you're making it worse. You look past her. Where's Peter? She doesn't blink. Gone to the coast? Did he know Len Fisher? She opens her mouth, closes it, then leans in. You ask one more question, and you'll wish you drowned too. She closes the door. You walk home with your heart punching your ribs. Not from fear, but from something worse, certainty. 2 people are dead, and whoever's left behind is only just getting started. Chapter 8, The Diary, says who did it, but it might be a lie. The diary comes from an unexpected place, not from Miss Marple, not from the police, from a child. You're crossing the lane near the Emmott house when little Elspeth Calthrop skips past you, stops, and holds something out. A red notebook. Book. Dog-eared, torn at the corners. Faint perfume clings to it, cheap. Artificial. I found it. She says, in the woods. Why give it to me? She shrugs. Miss Marple said you'd know what to do. Then she's gone, leaving only the weight of something that doesn't belong in your hands, but can't stay in anyone else's. You don't read it at home. You wait. Wait until you're inside the old post shed behind the school, the one no one uses anymore. You sit on a crate, heart pacing, and open the cover. Inside, in Rose's looping handwriting, is a confession. But it's not hers. It's a record of someone else's. He told me if I said a word, no one would believe me. He said people like me don't get to ruin men like him. But I wasn't going to stay quiet. Not after what he did. Not after he laughed. You turn the page. I have to tell someone. I wrote it down. In case something happens. If they find me, it was Peter Bartlett. You drop the book, like it burned your fingers. You'd suspected. You'd seen signs. But this is something else. This is a name, written, fixed, blamed. But even as your mind races, a colder part of you, the part that's been learning how to survive this village, begins to whisper, too perfect. You take it to Miss Marple. Of course, you show her the page. She reads it twice. Her eyes don't widen. They narrow. I saw this notebook before. She says softly, but not this page. You freeze. What do you mean? When I visited Rose's mother, the day after the funeral, it was torn then. Pages ripped out. She flips to the back, finger tapping lightly. Aman Komishi. This page was added after she died. You're sure? She looks up. It's written with ink from the post office. The newer stock and the handwriting. She shrugs. Similar. But a girl's handwriting stiffens when she's scared. This one is controlled. Someone planted it. Not for you. For whoever would find it next. Maybe the police. Maybe Rose's mother. Maybe even Peter's own wife. The point was never the truth. The point was retribution. Later that evening, a brick is thrown through your window. No note, no message, just broken glass and a warning carried on the wind. Go cotton. You pick up the brick, scrawled in pencil on one side. Barely visible. You're next. You sit in the dark. Blood dripping from your palm. And you finally ask the question you've been avoiding since this began. Not who killed Rose, not why, but how far is this village willing to go to stay quiet? And you're starting to think there's no limit. Chapter 9. Her mother finally talks, and what she says changes everything. The house is quiet, not the peaceful kind, the kind where the air sits too still, like it's waiting for the next scream that never comes. You knock once on Mrs. Emmett's door. She doesn't answer. You try the handle, unlocked, inside. It smells like dust, dried flowers, and forgotten grief. She's sitting at the table, back straight, hands clasped like she's been waiting for you. She doesn't look up. I know why you're here, she says. You don't speak. You wait. You found the notebook. A nod, and the name in it. Another nod. Then you know it's a lie. That stops you. You thought she might confirm it, or deny it, or sob into a teacup like every broken mother in every small-town tragedy. But not this. You think she lied? She shakes her head slow. Sad. Not Rose. They lied. Whoever wrote that wanted to bury her twice. You step closer. Why? Because Rose had the real name written somewhere else. She opens a drawer beside her, pulls out a second notebook. Blue leather, stained at the corners. I kept this, she says, because she left it on the table the night she disappeared. Said she'd be back for it. Her hands tremble as she passes it to you. She never came back. You read in silence. The entries are scattered a mix of petty village gossip, songs, lyrics, feelings she didn't know how to say aloud. Then, near the end, he said if I told, I'd ruin everything. He said he loved me. But love doesn't feel like this. Not when it hurts. Not when it hides. Then a name, not Peter Bartlett. Not Harry Carter, but Reverend Mayhew, the vicar, the man who gave sermons about forgiveness and sin while hiding behind robes and wine. The man who told the village that Rose needed guidance. The man who helped her find purpose. You remember his smile, the way it never quite reached his eyes. And suddenly, the sermons sound different. She came to me that night. Mrs. Emmott said she couldn't keep it secret anymore. That he'd promised to marry her or help her go away. She was going to go to the bishop or the press, anyone who'd listen. I told her she stops. Her voice breaks. I told her to wait. That people like us don't win against men like him. You stare at her, and what did she do? She walked out. Miss Marple arrives just as you step into the street. You hand her the blue notebook. She reads the name. Her lips pressed together. Bloodless. I suspected, she murmurs, but I didn't want it to be him. You look at her sharply. Then why protect Peter Bartlett? She meets your eyes. Finally, because the village would survive blaming a son of a dead man. She gestures to the notebook, but it won't survive the death of its faith. That night, the vicar's house is empty. No lights, no sign of movement. Gone. Vanished. Only a note tacked to the chapel door, written in stiff, righteous script. I served my purpose. God will be my judge. You pull it down, tear it in half, because you know he's not running from judgment. He's running from you, and he'll need more than faith to stay ahead. Chapter 10. The village turns on itself, and you're caught in the middle. They say it happened overnight, but you know better. This unraveling has been coming for years. It just needed the right tear, and now the seam is wide open. The village is no longer quiet. It whispers with blame. Some say Miss Marple set it all in motion. Others say you did. They don't care about truth. They care about order, and you broke it. Posters for Sunday service have been ripped down. The church bell remains silent. At the grocer's, someone refuses you service. At the pub, the chatter stops when you enter. The milkman leaves no bottle on your step. Just a note. Enough now. Peter Bartlett is gone. Fled with what reputation he had left. Mrs. Emmott hasn't been seen in days. Some say she's under a doctor's care. Others say she left with nothing but her daughter's photo and a knife in her handbag. No one mentions the vicar by name, only him, as if names are too sharp now. You meet Miss Marple in her garden. She's not tending flowers. She's burning something. Old letters, a pair of gloves, a ribbon from a girl's hair. You watch the smoke rise. This isn't justice. You say, no, she replies. But it's closer than we've ever been allowed. He's still free, and so are you. She pauses. You should leave. Tonight, before they make you the next body. You consider it. The train leaves at midnight. You pack a bag, the diary, the locket, the letter Rose never got to send. You leave behind the threats, the cold stares, the rotting peace. But as you step onto the platform, you see something scrawled on the wall in chalk. The river never forgets. Cookies. And in that moment, you understand. You can leave this place, but it won't leave you. Not ever. You don't board the train. You walk back to the water, back to where it started. Kio. The river is still, silent, like it's listening, like it's waiting. You drop the diary in, watch it sink, then whisper, she was never yours. In the morning, the village wakes to no confessions, to no retribution, but to something worse. Memory, because now, every time the wind shifts over the water, they'll hear her name. And you'll always be the one who reminded them the dead don't stay buried, and the truth always floats.